And so other stories now, in less than 1 week, about 67 persons have died in 2 states and the FCT in stampedes at palliative distribution centers. In the FCT, 10 persons died at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Maitama, and 8 others sustained injuries on Saturday. Now, that same day, another stampede occurred in Okija, Anambra State, with a death toll now at 22. On Wednesday, 35 children died in a stampede at the Islamic High School in Basharun area of Ibadan, Oyo State. The fun fair intended to provide 5,000 naira to 5,000 children. Right, the public affairs analyst Dr. Jide Ojo joins me on the news via Zoom to look at this sad development. He joins me from Abuja. Good to have you join us.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon. Compliments of the season.
Wish you the same. But even as we speak, some families have now been thrown into mourning. Some even lost more than one person, one of their children, especially the one, in Ibadan, more than one person in this sad development. What do you make of it, especially for the one in Abuja, and the one in Anambra? Those two came up just after the incident in Oyo State.
Well, there are not just 2 or 3. I can recount 6 that has happened this year, which has led to fatalities. Recall that on February 23, 2024, there in Lagos, where I believe you are situated, 7 people died when the Nigerian Customs Service was trying to sell cheap price to Lagosians. 7 people died. Shortly after, in March, we had 2 students of National State University trampled to death while they are trying to, the state government was giving them succor through the distribution of foodstuff and money. So we also have had this similar incident in Bauchi, and now very recently on the 19th, 32 or 35 people died on December 19th in Ibadan. And of course, the incidents that took place last Saturday in Okija and in Abuja. Now, what does this tell us? It shows, one, that there is deplorable hunger and starvation in the country, which has made many people who usually would have ignored palliatives to now embrace it with their food chest and even scouting for food wherever they can get. Secondly, is that previously issues of crowd control and security threats have always not been taken serious when it comes to distribution of palliatives, and this has become very imperative now. In the Abuja incident, Holy Trinity Catholic Church, where I'm very familiar with, I've been to that church in time past, it's an enclosure. And you want to give palliative to people, there's only one entry point, no exit. That same entry is the exit point. And, there are no appropriate crowd control measures. Even though the church said they've been distributing palliative for over 20 years. The upsurge in 2024, arising from the rising cost of living, perhaps make the population of those who want to have this palliative to quadruple. And the church should have understood that they need to involve the emergency responders to help with the management of the crowd. And that has become very imperative.
And Dr. Jide Ojo, if I may quickly comment, and I know you're talking about, what those who are sharing palliatives and distributing palliatives at this time should have done. But we know that in some of these venues, and from what we've heard, that people even arrive at these venues a day before the set dates for the distribution of the palliatives. And it highlights the points you made earlier about poverty, hunger, and how things are difficult for a lot of people, even more people now. Why are we not seeing the state governments and perhaps also the federal government, especially the states and local government, taking a lead in its palliative distribution? Perhaps that would have reduced the crowds that we see at these centers.
Well, that is hypothetical. To the best of my knowledge, since 2020, federal government, state governments have been distributing palliatives, and casualties have actually been recorded in time past. I recall that in Port Harcourt, in 2022 or thereabouts, about 31 people were trampled to death in a church while they were trying to receive palliative. And there have been occasional deaths, just that the magnitude may not be as what we have recorded. Recall that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs have been distributing palliatives. There were a lot of COVID-19 palliative measures that were taken in 2020, in 2021. And even this year, there have been several palliative distributions. I was just reading in one of the newspapers online, several states now taking very stringent and measures to prevent future stampede. And this is what should have been in place. Lagos State, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Kogi, several states are now taking initiatives to involve emergency responders, to involve medical personnel, to involve, all manner of preventive measures are now being put in place. This should have been what we should have had on ground as a template that should have guided any distribution of palliatives. But better late than never. The most important thing is we need to prevent future tragedies. I'm glad with what we do, Kogi, Akwa Ibom, Lagos, and several other states have come up with in the last 24 hours. Many of them are now saying, it is important for, anyone, whether state, local, or any NGO or church or religious institutions, to take some preemptive and preventive measures. And that is what we should have factored in, given the fact that there is a need to assess venue of distribution, there is a need to assess our exit and entry point, assess, making sure that there are ambulances, medical personnel on ground.
The necessary protocols and procedures. Thank you so much for your time, as always. Our public affairs analyst, Dr. Judy Ojo.